Okay. We're going to pause in our program for some messages. I've always wanted to say this, and it's the holiday season, so let me get away with it. We have 3 chiefs with us today and no Indians. Ooh, bad. The Thibodaux Fire Chiefs, Mike Narcan, Chris Revere, and Dan Narcan. We've been talking a bit about the dangers of carbon monoxide. I think there was a family of 13 north of the lake that had to be hospitalized for that. A couple of deaths in the New Orleans area. So it's really quite serious. We've talked about space heaters, fireplaces, but we need to talk about our Christmas trees. And I go first to Mike Narcan. A lot of people are just putting their tree up, but most people have already had it up for a while. What are our dangers right now, Mike?
Well, right now, Marie, the trees that have been up for some time now are probably starting to dry out, and the public just needs to be cautious of that fact, because a dry Christmas tree can ignite and just burn like gasoline. Because once those trees catch, I mean, you wouldn't imagine how fast they actually burn. And they should continue to make sure they have water in their tree stand just to provide as much moisture as possible. And try not to leave the lights on, whenever they're away from the home. And also when they are home and they have the lights on, just kind of monitor it and be aware of it, that the lights can actually ignite the tree if left on for any significant length of time.
I was reading one of these books about the simple life and days gone by and candles on the tree. If you want to be nostalgic, that's one thing you should avoid. Huh, Chris? No candles on the tree, or don't light them?
I think so. That's almost beyond my comprehension. But after seeing Christmas trees burn, kind of in a, when we burn 1 or 2 just to see what it would do, to see how rapidly that fire can extend, to have an open flame on the Christmas tree is very, very dangerous.
And Dan, what about packages? Can the wrapping paper be too close to the tree, or how should we avoid that kind of potential problem?
Well, you should make sure when you do wrap the tree with lights that they do not touch any type of furniture next to it or the wrapping paper, because the light bulbs can get very hot, especially the older types, because they used to have the bigger type of bulbs which could get really, really hot. Nowadays they have the new strands. The light doesn't get as hot as the older ones, but still it could light the paper on the package, definitely.
Now, placement of the tree. We've talked about fireplaces and sources of heat. I guess from that discussion, I'll go to Mike with this. Mike, I don't guess we ought to place that tree near a space heater or fireplace? Or?
Definitely not, Marie. The tree should not be close to any source of heat that would possibly catch it on fire. You wouldn't want to put it too close to any furniture or draperies that in the event the tree would catch fire, if it's next to draperies, then that's just an easy way for that fire to spread. You just want to use caution when placing the tree so that, we don't end up with more of a serious problem that in the event it does catch, you won't want it to spread to other parts of your house.
While we seem to have, and I'm going to cross my fingers and toes, we seem to have avoided the snow, sleet, freezing rain, which just is happening just north of us. I do remember one year, you guys probably were little bitty fellows then, where we did have that type of situation, and there were 5 major house fires in less than 5 hours, most of which were started from space heaters that were turned up too high. Does that continue to be a problem when it's very cold?
We've had, whenever we have an ice storm or a snowstorm, we've had occasions for fires. I remember the last time it snowed in Thibodaux, we had an apartment building on Good Street that burned.
That was in 89, I think.
Probably.
Yeah.
So, fire safety is really a year-round business, but it needs to be monitored more closely in the wintertime. We talked about Christmas trees, and I want to interject 2 things. One is that you should always have a working smoke detector in the room where your Christmas tree is. I think that's a good practice for home safety. And another thing is we've seen a lot of occasions now where people keep these live Christmas trees beyond the Christmas season and into Mardi Gras. And so you'll have a tree, instead of being discarded right after Christmas, will go into the month of February. And
It's
probably,
changed to decorations.
that's correct. And but it probably, that dry tree causes a greater hazard that might not be worth the risk.
So if you're going to do that, use an artificial tree.
Yes.
All right, listener question. Actually, it's a comment. This listener says, please encourage people to buy smoke detectors as gifts for Christmas. Any comment, gentlemen?
Yeah, that is a terrific idea, and we really need to get the word out to the public that, smoke detectors save lives. And, we have gone to many calls where people were alerted of the fire in their residence because of the fact they have a smoke detector. But we have also gone to calls where the people had no smoke detector in their residence, and, we encourage them wholeheartedly to go out and get smoke detectors because it's a very inexpensive item that could possibly save a life or even, save property from being damaged in the event if they didn't have one.
Is the jury kind of still out on the carbon monoxide detectors, or are those being recommended?
Marie, carbon monoxide detectors are recommended, and they are good things. I know we have gone to many calls where people call the fire department to go check their their carbon monoxide detectors. The problem there is we have gone to many calls, but I can only remember one call where there actually was carbon monoxide present in the house, and they do tend to malfunction. And so again, maybe they'll improve on them a little bit, but it is highly recommended to to go ahead and get them.
All right. We're going to pause again in our program. Our guests, the fire chiefs for the Thibodaux Volunteer Fire Department. They are Mike Narcan, Chris Riviere, and Dan Narcan. We have another listener question, and we'll be back in a minute or so. I'll throw this out, gentlemen, and whichever one of you wants to respond. We had a listener call. She lives in government housing, and cars are abandoned in her driveway. She says children, I'm assuming it's a she, children play in the car, and she's afraid of fire happening because one did happen recently right across the street. She's afraid she won't be able to get out. Please have someone move the cars. How do you go about getting abandoned cars moved from your driveway? Do you have to call the wrecker, or will the city police, or do you all know? Chris?
Well, we're primarily involved in firefighting aspects of the city. We do get called on an occasion to go and take a look at a situation to see if it poses a risk of public safety. As far as moving cars either off of private property or off of the street, that's probably a police matter, and the police department would be the appropriate agency to handle that.
And the street she lives on is within the city limits, so if you would call the Thibodaux Police Department, I'm sure they'll come out.
We're going to go ahead and forward that along to the Thibodaux Police Department to help in that situation.
Whenever we had fire chiefs on in the past, we would talk about fireworks as a problem with fires. But is that still a problem? Dan, you want to take that? Do y'all get a lot of calls, fireworks starting fires? Or?
Not to my knowledge as far as fireworks, but they are very dangerous, especially when it's really dry. And say a bottle rocket goes up, and it could land on somebody's house or whatever, and could ignite whatever it lands. And but as far as fireworks are illegal to have in the city of Thibodaux, is it parish wide also or not? I don't think the parish.
You're allowed in the parish within a certain framework. They are not allowed in the city limits. But sometimes we do hear them. They've been burning the cane fields recently, and I noticed a lot of soot and ashes in my driveway, and other people have mentioned it. That hasn't caused any fires, huh, Mike?
No, we haven't really gotten any complaints or any calls to respond to fires as a result of the burning of the sugarcane. But one thing, Marie, now that the farmers are doing, they're actually burning the cane standing up. And I think that's as a result of these new combines that they're using to harvest the cane. And in the past, we have gotten calls from residents or people on cellular phones to report a sugarcane field burning with the cane standing up, which is something that we didn't see in the past. Well, when we would respond to those calls, we only to have the farmer come out and say, no, don't put it out, I want it to burn. So we have gotten accustomed now to whenever we would get calls for standing cane that's burning, instead of responding the whole department, we'll actually, go check it out, and if the farmer wants it to burn, then we'll just allow it to continue burning.
I don't want to put a hex or anything on the Thibodaux Volunteer Fire Department, but we've been very fortunate in the last few years. I don't think there have been any fire deaths. Am I correct?
No, last year, Marie, if you remember, there were 2 fire deaths. The house that was set on St. Charles Street as a result of arson, there were two people that perished in that fire.
But
other than that, I can't think of any others lately.
Is arson still a problem there for a while across the country? Arson was deemed to be a problem because people were trying to collect insurance. That's not much of a problem anymore, at least locally, Chris?
Arson is a problem nationwide, as you say, Marie. We have not seen a tremendous amount of arson-related fires when you compare those numbers to the total number of calls we have. But I find that the insurers are taking a harder look at it. Some of the insurance companies have arson task force units to investigate it, and I think that probably impacts the numbers of arson-related fires.
All right, I'd like to go to Dan Narcan with this. Are there pamphlets or things of that nature available through the Thibodaux Volunteer Fire Department for people on any of the topics we talked about this morning?
Yes, ma'am. We have a fire prevention committee within the department, and they actually go out to all the schools, especially during Fire Prevention Week, to touch base with all of the children, especially, and give them brochures and coloring books and things like that. And that's a good avenue to go because the children will get interested in it and take it home to their house, to their parents, in their own lives with getting smoke detectors, and they'll be noticed if they don't see a smoke detector or fire extinguisher to get them to talk to their parents. But yeah, we do have information.
If they don't know how to get that information, how do you go about getting it? Calling there's a non-emergency number.
Right, we have that off our central station. The number's 447-1986. And they could call there, and now somebody's not there all the time, but we do have an answering machine, and they could leave their name, number, and information that they want.
Well, I want to thank the three of you for being our guests today. We've learned a lot, Mike.
Yeah, you're quite welcome, Maria. It was our pleasure to be here. And again, if anybody has any comments or questions or concerns, like Dan said, they can just go ahead and call our non-emergency number. And again, that number is 447-1986.
All right. Again, thank you, gentlemen. No dialogue tomorrow because Santa's too busy. He's got to get all those toys out. And but we will come back on Monday, and we do expect at that point to have the head of the Louisiana State Police as our guest, Colonel Rutt Whittington, and he'll be joining us by phone. Our guests today have been the chiefs of the Thibodaux Volunteer Fire Department, Mike Narcan, Chris Riviere, and Dan Narcan. Merry Christmas. Join you on Monday.
Throughout the 1970s,